Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. You know, roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have,
you'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right?
Yeah.
I want a man's coolant.
and he's like, "Oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light."
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West.
Internet.
You know, is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
It loves to be driven hard.
Welcome back to Auto Off Topic. How are you, Brad?
Andrew, I'm wonderful. How are you doing today?
I am just dandy.
Excellent.
How are you?
I have like all kinds of stuff to talk about today. So
Yeah, I mean, we're getting back into it. It's
100%.
for me, working on cars season. So,
And it's ending working on car season here, but because it is here, I don't have to actually stop working on them. I just have to adapt to the changing temperature a little bit. So
yeah,
I've had a little less momentum than I wanted through the working on car season, but I did get some stuff done, and we're going to carry it on to the next few months, I think. So fingers crossed.
yeah. So I was, scrolling Instagram as I do, and I learned about a company either yesterday or today. I think it was yesterday. It doesn't surprise me that it exists. I just didn't know it existed. Built by Legends. I didn't realize this was a thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They are,
That makes sense.
they're like the, what's his name? They're like the Boyd Coddington of GTRs. Maybe not Boyd Coddington. 'Cause that
Okay,
implies
but-
custom. They're custom though.
Nah, sort of. They'll do like OEM restoration though too. It seems like if you want that,
Yeah, they go hard.
but it's more. It's like the Canepa. I wouldn't say Singer. It's like a Singer Canepa type place.
Okay.
But for Skylines, right?
Yeah, they're
Which,
expensive too. So yeah.
yeah, I can only imagine. Basically, because it was a post by Larry Chen,
Correct.
who apparently bought an R34 in Japan and is having them restore it. So whatever an R34 costs, probably double that to have it restored.
No,
That's impressive.
it's not double that.
No,
No, it's like
it's not double the cost of an R34.
it's like 4 times the cost of an
Triple it?
It's like 4 times the cost.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'd have to confirm it on the internet because I haven't confirmed it in a while. But I know last time I saw anything about them.
What's an R34 going for?
So there's a range of options. You're not going to get one under $100,000. So,
Yep.
And then it depends on mileage, color, Nismo, Z-Tune, all these other things. So a Bayside blue R34, with average kilometers on it is probably about between 100 and 150. And then on top of that, it's potentially 500 to $1 million over that, depending on what you want Built by Legends to do. So,
Wow.
yeah, they're not cheap. The crazy thing about it is it exists.
Is it though? Is it that crazy? I mean,
I don't know.
people have been restoring cars for many, many years. It was just a matter of time that the Japanese stuff started to catch up.
Well,
and now we're getting
let's
there.
take it backwards.
I mean,
let's take it backwards.
sort of.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I did a light restoration on my Gallant, right?
Yeah.
Like 12 years ago,
Yeah.
and people thought I was crazy.
Sure. So
Now it's not. That wouldn't be that weird.
let's take it back a little bit. Now, 5 years ago, you heard of a Singer Porsche for the first time. And
Yeah.
a Singer Porsche 5 years ago was what, 250 grand, 300 grand? And you were like, oh man, that's an expensive car. Who's spending that much for a mid 80s Porsche? And then
Right.
now they're
That's
like a half
backdated.
Yeah, now they're like a $500,000. But if you want to buy one on the open market and not wait for them to build one for you, you're looking at, $1 million plus for a used one. So
Whoa.
it's insane. So that being the benchmark of this whole thing, the Porsche market is huge. And there is nothing easier to take money from than a Porsche owner. You literally put that
Yep.
Porsche crest on anything and it quadruples its price, whether it's a brake pad or a watch and anything in between. So the fact that these R34s cost the same to build into like the Singer version of an R34 is insane to me because it's not the same market. And we can sit here all day long and talk about how the Japanese car market is this burgeoning thing. I would put the beginning of it in like 2007 or so, probably. Was when it really started to go from like a couple of weirdos like you and me to like slightly more mainstream. And that was only slightly. And then 2015 or so, it started getting a little crazier because of the JDM imports. I'd say 2012 to 2015, when a 25-year-old car was an early 90s car. That started to like, when the R32 became legal essentially. And that's what, 1990?
Yeah.
So 2015. So that's really when the values of vintage Japanese cars started to be noticed. People were like, oh, you can make money on these things. And then obviously, like anything else in life, once people realize you can make money on it, it just goes insane. So that's where it all started. And when that started, an R32 GTR you could buy for $20,000. Now you can't buy one for double that. So somewhere in between the $50,000 to $75,000 R32 and the $100,000 to $150,000 R34, there was this niche market of people with way more money than, I don't want to say way more money than sense, but kind of way more money than sense, that were like, I need a better R34 because I've never owned an R34. Might as well have the best. I mean, why not have a normal one first? Anyway, that's a whole other story. So I don't understand how he went in less than 10 years from a $20,000 GTR to $1 million GTR. And that, if that doesn't really grind your gears, Andrew, I don't know what will. It's just frustrating as an enthusiast. Not that I was in the GTR market, but a rising tide rises all ships, right? So,
well, they know that even if they spend this money on it, it'll double in value, triple in value, which is slightly annoying.
Yeah, you're not going to lose your money. And just like the Singer thing, if you want a Built by Legends car, there's a waiting list. So you want a Singer, there's a waiting list. So people will pay above and beyond the price of the car to get it now if it's for sale. So,
yeah, I still maintain that this all stems from Gran Turismo.
Oh, you're not wrong.
I don't think these cars would be nearly as popular as they are if people didn't know about them. Gran Turismo. It was not Fast and the Furious. It was Gran Turismo.
There's a 3-factor system here because you have Gran Turismo started it, and people like us started getting into it. And then once people like us started getting into stuff, it became a little bit more noticed that there were some people into it. And then the next thing you had was, probably a little bit of Fast and the Furious. And then on top of that, you had social media blow up with Instagram and hashtags and people seeing what people had. And that's really where it happened. Like when car enthusiasts were relegated to forums, you had to work at it. You had to know what you were looking for. You weren't fed things. You and I both belonged to Japanese Nostalgia Car back in the mid 2000s. and you were there with, a couple hundred vintage Japanese car enthusiasts. And then Instagram came around, and all of a sudden, 1 million people would see an R32 GTR and be like, "Oh, I need that. That's the thing to have." And I think those three things. I think Gran Turismo, video games in general, but Gran Turismo especially, then the movies, and then the ease of information to normies kind of changed everything. I mean, this isn't just GTRs. This kind of surprised us dollar figure wise and that it exists wise. But there are other cars out there that on a lesser level are doing the same thing. I went to this past weekend the Bring a Trailer alumni gathering here in town. I'm not a Bring a Trailer alumni, but I went as a spectator. I guess technically I am. I did buy a car from Bring a Trailer before it was an auction site, though.
Yeah.
So I guess that would make me an alumni. Anyway, whatever. And I think you probably share this sentiment with me that we have kind of a love-hate relationship for these online auctions. Because that's another thing I think that has contributed to this rise in value of formerly unloved cars. It started with Porsche 911, 944, 914. We'd see them on the online auctions, and you'd see a car that was 30 grand a few months prior, all of a sudden is 60 grand, and then 100 grand, and then 150 grand. And you're like, what is going on? But much like this GTR thing, talking about, the rising tide, that means that people are starting to see money in the mundane. And any car with lower than average mileage on it now gets listed on Bring a Trailer and sold for some dumb amount of money to a collector to park in a garage and to take out occasionally for like the Bring a Trailer alumni event. So the one that struck me this past weekend and really ticked me off was a 1984 Subaru Brat. Now, they're neat. I would drive one. You would probably drive one. They're just dumb, like goofy cars.
No, I would not.
You would drive one. I don't know that you'd own one forever, but you would drive it.
Car-based pickup. Don't want it.
All right, make it a GL wagon then
Ugly.
instead. Anyway, They're neat. They're kind of neat for what they are, but their most perfect one in the world up until very recently was a $3,500, $4,000 car. And this particular one that was at the alumni event, I looked up the auction for its sale, and it sold for $16,000. And it's not perfect. It's got cracked dashboard and worn paint, and it's complete, but it's not by any means a show quality vehicle.
Weird.
And it was 16 grand. So yeah, we're sitting here and we got in this conversation about, $500,000 to $1 million guidelines, but that's a blue chip thing now. Like that's totally out of our realm of normal car enthusiasts. And listen, hats off to Larry Chen, because that man obviously is doing much better than I thought he was, if he is anywhere in the value of a Built by Legends GTR. So good for him for being a photographer that made it that good. But what I'm seeing is that stuff like that Subaru Brat for 16 grand. When a Subaru Brat that's not perfect is $16,000, what does the average enthusiast buy? Because $16,000 isn't a small amount of money. It's not $3,000 to $5,000 that somebody might have kicking around to purchase a fun weekend cruise night ice cream with the family car. 16 grand is like a significant amount of money. That's half the price of a new car. That's not impulse buy money, unless you have a lot of money and you just buy and sell cars on BAT all day and therefore inflate the value of said cars. But for the person that wants a turnkey non-project, it's starting to get slightly ridiculous. Because not everybody is you or me and can buy a car that needs some love. A lot of people just need a car that's ready to go. And when 84 Subaru Brats are well over 10 grand, you start to push people out of the hobby. So that's my rant for the day, I guess. But
yeah, I suppose it's just, I don't know. maybe it's also easier because they're being served to you on Bring a Trailer. You don't have to search for them. That was part of the. That was half of it was doing the search.
So, part of the theory with Bring a Trailer too is that you're buying a top level car, but you're not.
Yeah, that was in the beginning.
In the beginning, it definitely wasn't because it's Bring a Trailer. The name of the site is literally Bring a Trailer because this car sucks. It needs to be towed home. But they lost their way. And then people assumed that because it was on Bring a Trailer, you could buy it, drive it home, and just enjoy it as is. It wasn't going to require any work. And that, I think, is part of what inflated the value of cars on BAT when it's not true. They were just the same car a car dealer was trying to sell on their lot that nobody bought, and now it's on the internet for everybody to see it.
Yeah.
So, buyer beware, obviously.
Yeah, so part of that... Yeah, but part of that, the digging, the search, is gone.
Sure. I don't question that at all. I don't know. I'm particularly angry lately about money in the hobby and just watching people that don't know what they're doing try to flip cars. And I'm not anti a good car flip, but in order to be a good car flip, it requires you to purchase said vehicle, add value to said vehicle with your time and labor and parts, and then sell it for a profit, paying your time and labor and parts. Purchasing a vehicle, not doing anything, and selling it for more because you know the market better is just ruining the hobby. And that's the same with everything. You know, I complain about this, you know, with stupid Hot Wheels cars that you can't find in the store because they're $1 and somebody buys it and sells it on eBay for $10. Like, is it really worth the effort for your $9? Like, minus fees?
It is for someone, not for us.
It shouldn't be. You're ruining the experience for others.
That's why I don't buy it from scalpers.
I try not to.
Don't support it. So, that's like, part of it is, like I said, part of it's the search, right? So why didn't I buy the first 142 I saw? Because it was probably overpriced for what it was. Well, it took 2 or 3 years
at least
to find the one that made sense.
And did it make sense? Who knows?
I'm still thinking it makes sense. I'm still thinking it's fine.
It is fine. It is fine. Yeah, it could require a brand new transmission, engine, and rear diff, and you'd still be ahead of the game with this car. So I'm not worried about it. It's not going to.
Not worried about it either. But that for us, like that's how I fight the high costs, is that I'm willing to be patient. I'm willing to look.
Yeah, and you're willing to buy a project. And
Yes.
That's one of the things I was just mentioning. Like, not everybody can buy a project. You know, I love purchasing a project.
Well, that's fine.
And putting it together and selling it for somebody else to enjoy now that it runs. That's great. But not everybody can do that.
Well, that's fine. If you don't want to buy a project, you'll pay a premium. I'm not willing.
Yeah, I hear you, Andrew. But what I'm saying is, at what point did that premium go from this is $1,000 Subaru Brat because it doesn't run to this? Oh, this is a $5,000 or $6,000 Subaru Brat because I can drive it. To this is a $16,000 Subaru Brat. You can buy a lot more car for $16,000 than a Subaru Brat.
You can, but whose fault is it for buying that? And are they really all selling for that price?
I don't know.
Or is it just that outlier?
Now everybody who owns one thinks they're selling for that price.
Yeah, and when they don't, they'll come down.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Andrew, this is how I wind up with 14 cars, because you buy them when they're right and when they're cheap.
Yeah.
So that's always been my thing, but not everybody is mentally ill like I am. So it's a different process for most people. Most people are only buying one car every 10 years, not 10 cars every car season. So whatever. I'm just angry in general about the inflated values of cars, and I blame a lot of it on Bring a Trailer. And listen, I worked in that industry for a while. I was probably part of the problem. But maybe being behind the curtain and seeing what really goes on at these auctions also has tipped me negatively towards it as well. Knowing that the cars aren't special, knowing that there's no promise of a good car. You're, at the end of the day, just buying something that somebody else sent to bring a trailer or cars and bids or whatever.
I got news for you. The auctions were always like this. It just finally hit the cars that we care about.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, Andrew, you're probably 100% right. And I just never cared about it because I wasn't buying Chargers and Challengers and Camaros and Mustangs.
Yeah. Did people overpay for muscle cars?
Still
Absolutely. Do. Yeah. Were any of those muscle cars worth that much? No. Because you could build a better car from a low model of the same car and be able to drive it and not have the value affected.
Still can.
Right?
Still can. People often bring that up to me, and one of my things I always say is, you're right. You probably can't afford a 442 W30, but you know what you can afford? You can afford a Cutlass S. And you can put a 350 or 400 in it and build the car you want to build and add value to the car instead of taking it away. So,
yeah, because you can't, once you get into that numbers matching BS stuff, it's like you can't touch the car. You can't drive it. You can't change anything.
Well, I'm aware, Andrew. I've had the Camaro for my entire life that has not had any changes other than wheels. So I get it.
Yeah. Because at that point, it's either it stays all original or it has to do a full resto. There's no in between. Mm-hmm. You can't do a half.
Oh, you're 100% right.
There's no half job on that.
You're 100% right. So, and maybe if they were podcasts in 1995, 1995's 40-year-old Brad and Andrew would have been complaining about the same thing about Barracuda pricing. And probably there would be. I was going to bring this up on a different episode. Yeah, I'll hold it. I'll hold it for next episode. I have a whole thing to talk about.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
It's only tangentially related, so it's about predictions and things people used to say that haven't come true. But I have a whole thing set up for that, so that'll be teasing next episode. I found a stash of 80s car and drivers, and I was laughing at a few things.
It's just, if I hit the lottery, would I get a Built by Legends car? Yeah, probably. Not gonna lie.
If I hit the lottery, I'd have Built by Legends build a Subaru Brat to give to you.
I'd put it up for charity. I'd bring a trailer after you gave it to me. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
I'd take the ski team wagon.
You don't have
a
choice in my fantasy lottery winnings, Andrew. This is what happens. I'll pay off your house, and I'll buy you a Subaru Brat. That's what you get.
The what's it called? The Vermont sports car.
Oh, do they have a name for it?
The Air Slayer?
Yeah, I think you're right. Air Slayer sounds right. That sounds right.
No, Air Slayer was the modern Subaru, wasn't it?
Oh
my gosh.
Who
was the wagon? The 80s wagon. Yeah. What? Oh man.
I don't remember. It's not that
blanking on that.
Oh, Family Huckster. Family Huckster.
Yeah. Durr.
Yeah, Family Huckster. All right. Anyway, when one of us wins the lottery, the other one's all set. And we'll buy them a car they like, but also we'll have to have something built that's a ridiculous version of a car they hate. So good luck finding a car I hate.
Yeah, what a rich guy move to prank your friends by building them a car that they hate.
But that is awesome at the same time. I like it. Now one of us just needs to win the lottery to make this happen.
Anyway, I speaking of like working on old stuff and making them nicer, I talked about grabbing those cloth seats for the Montero.
Hey, went to the junkyard a couple weekends ago.
And I took just the front seats out, and I did the steam method with some tough stuff and some chemical guys like upholstery cleaner, which is also really good.
The yellow stuff?
And no, I do have the yellow stuff. I bought that the other day because I didn't have it. I used the clear.
Oh, that works really good too.
And I used the tough stuff. Yeah,
we actually use the clear cleaner stuff like for household cleaning. It works so well. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing I like. You can get it, Chemical Guy stuff pretty much anywhere. I was at Walmart the other day.
Yep.
I got it because I wanted to stop at Walmart. I was looking for Hot Wheels. But anyways,
Yeah,
I was actually looking for Auto World.
Yeah, they
stuff.
have the basic line is at like Walmart and AutoZone and all those places now.
They have a lot. But what I do like, so I buy Tough Stuff. It's an aerosol can. Not great.
But it works.
A lot of the Chemical Guy stuff comes in spray bottles. So when it's empty, you can just recycle the bottle.
They also sell most of the stuff. If you go online, you can buy gallon refills. So the stuff that I use significant amounts of, I buy gallon refills. Like I have a gallon refill of the pink detail spray. I have the gallon refill of the car wash soap, the sudsy soap, because now I use that foam cannon thing. And I have a gallon refill of the Tire Shine. So, and the invisible, the clear.
Yeah,
cleaner.
I wouldn't. Yeah, we're not sponsored by them or anything, but the stuff does work pretty good.
I have
I was surprised at how well it did.
issues with any of the products so far. I know you had a little bit of a problem with the stuff on the G20. But I still think there was something weird going on there. Because I've used the same product to much better avail. So,
but yeah, it was like those seats. They put them on my Instagram. There was one of them had a big stain in the front. It mostly all came up. They look pretty good, and they don't smell like a junkyard anymore. They just smell like the tough stuff.
That's important. If you wanted to try to get the rest of that stain out, if it's still a little bit left, I find Naomi's really into like cleaning with steam cleaners and stuff. She likes to help out whenever I buy a car and cleaning the seats. That the yellow Chemical Guys cleaner with the heated steam thing, like we had the Bissell. I think you had the little Bissell Hot Shot thing, but then we also use we had the Bissell Pet one. That's actually an extractor, and it's basically a shampooer.
So I do like the poor man's setup, where I steam it, scrub it, and then use my shop vac to extract it.
Well, the Bissell Pet Cleaner also we didn't buy for cars. We have it for household stuff because when we bought it, we had 3 dogs, so it was good for cleaning things in the house, the carpet and whatnot. But it's like $80, and it's well worth its $80 for sure.
Well, what was wild was that I whatever was on the driver's seat, like it didn't look it, but as I started like steaming it and cleaning it, like the oily sheen like came up, like somebody put something oily on it in the junkyard.
Yeah, more than likely.
And it pulled all that out, which is
greasy old handprints.
And then they looked like okay, and then I put them away in the garage, and they were a little damp, and then they dried, and now they look actually half decent for being 30-year-old.
They look better than your torn leather seats for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take them apart. I think I'm gonna have to get some hog rings and hog ring pliers, because I did remember, or I had forgotten, that my seats are heated in the truck, and I want to try to swap over the inserts.
Well, while you have them apart,
seats.
You could probably put your covers in take them to the laundromat and put them in the heavy duty cleaner.
Or just in my wash machine, because most of the heavy stuff's out of them anyway.
I'm just thinking because the size and the material of them. I don't know if they're good for a home washer, but maybe they're fine. I was just thinking of like the commercial grade, like heavy duty laundromat cleaner.
Yeah, I was like, oh, after I went through all the steam cleaning, I can put them in a washer dryer. But I think it'd be all right. It's probably better. I got all the heavy stuff out of them.
So. And what's really cool, like heated cloth seats are way better than heated leather seats, so that'll be awesome.
Yeah, and then I got to do something with I got to figure out the armrests are kind of like a little funky and like falling apart. I got to figure out how to get them off and like fix them
or recover them as well.
And the back armrests. So that it's interesting, maybe because that truck was a base LS, the truck I pulled the seat out of, it's just a single bench that flips.
Okay.
Or mine is a split seat. So that's kind of a bummer, but
whatever.
Well, I did kind of use it sometimes where if Marco was sitting in the seat, I could flip it forward and put stuff back there, like the
Oh
Christmas
yeah, that
tree.
makes sense.
But I'll figure that out. It has armrests on the side, and they're like super torn
For the
up
sun,
for
probably.
whatever reason. So I might just swap the leathers onto it because those are like fine. Strangely, at my
Well, they're
truck.
they're
So
a
I'll just have
normal
some
shape
weird-
would probably be pretty easy to have something cut and sewn to fit too, and have like I don't know, like a tan plaid or something put over them. Just something that like looks a little
I'll figure it
different.
out.
But
I don't know. I don't know where you get. That's the problem. I don't know where you get interior grade
oh,
cloth.
there's plenty of places on the internet how Cindy links. I've been digging into this a ton because I have so many ideas rolling around in my head. I know exactly where to buy interior grade cloths. I unfortunately
Okay.
have
'Cause
to
then you can-
buy new seat material for the passenger side of the Porsche. Yeah.
But they sell that
it
because it's a Porsche.
Yeah, but the same place that sells that sells all kinds of cool patterns. So,
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, but, maybe I can. I'd probably be better off. I'd send, seat covers out to you to go to some seat shop out there because there's no seat shops here.
they probably are somewhere, especially being in the boat world there. There's a lot of like boat seat places that allows you to do car seats.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If I just because I don't need them to cover the seats, I just
No,
need
you
them to
give them your old ones and they use
sew
them
the
as a
pattern
pattern
together.
and then make new ones.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm comfortable stuffing the foam back in and doing all that stuff.
yeah, you want to go to the company is called Relicate, Relicate. I'll send you a
Alright.
link later, but
You can send me the
yeah,
link later, but that's for our.
they sell all
listeners.
kinds of cool stuff there, like the Pasha material itself. It's sold in, I think it's 3 feet by 5 feet, and every 3 feet by 5 feet is $150. So it's not like ridiculously expensive. That's the Porsche material.
And if you want the link, come join our Discord.
Yeah, I'll probably send it there.
But anyway, yeah. So I did the front seats. I also want to swap my driver's seat's power. This one's manual, so I kind of want to swap the bases around. So figure it out.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like a improvement for that truck is around the corner. So I'm excited to see it next
Yeah.
time out there.
What'd you do for?
All kinds of stuff, Andrew. Have I talked about the Mustang much here? Since I ordered something?
No, but it is National Mustang
It
Day.
is. Do you know why it's National Mustang Day, Andrew?
Did the Mustang debut today in 1964?
The Mustang debuted 60 years ago today, 4/17/1964. So that's why today is International Mustang Day or American Mustang Day or some kind of Mustang Day. So anyway, about that Mustang, I think I mentioned the fact that we ordered an engine.
You did.
So that engine is on a truck right now. At last check, it was supposed to be here today, which would have been amazing to have the engine arrive for our Mustang on National Mustang Day. But unfortunately, there was a delay because we ordered it to have that last mile delivery to our house instead of having to go to a place to pick it up somewhere because obviously we don't have a loading dock at our house. So for an
You don't have a loading dock at your house?
don't.
Come on,
I
plebe.
don't. Sorry.
Average middle class garage goals. Get your loading dock.
I don't have a loading dock, but what I do have is $80, and they were for an extra $80. They would deliver it directly, the last mile delivery to our house.
Yeah, they'll use the lift tailgate, which is BS. Takes 2 seconds.
Well, the $80 difference is not because they're using the lift; it's to have it put on a second truck and come to us directly. So it wouldn't have cost $80 to go to the main warehouse, but to put it, so it goes to the warehouse and then gets put on a truck and brought here. That's the $80 charge. So I did the quick math in my head and I was like, well, it's $29.99 for a U-Haul truck plus mileage. And then who knows how many miles it would be plus time out of my day. That's well worth $80 because it would cost me $50 between the truck and gas anyway. So for the extra $30 is my time. So anyway, for the extra $80, it's being delivered here. So the engine will be here soon. What we did receive for International Mustang Day is we ordered a new battery tray, and we ordered the sheet metal that's on the right side fender well that's underneath the battery tray. Because while this is an Arizona car, even Arizona cars have batteries, and battery acid over the years is terrible to sheet metal, and the battery tray was eaten all the way through, and the sheet metal below that is also just trashed. So I got the new sheet metal to put in there. I was looking at it the other day, and I'm trying to decide whether it's something I want to dig into myself or pay somebody to do. So I may wind up paying somebody to do it just because it's not my car and I'm not really strong on welding. It looks like it's only spot welded in, but even so, I just want to make sure it's done right because it's a pretty structural part of the front of the car. It ties the strut tower into the radiator support. So not that it's really a strut tower because it's the way the Mustang's designed, but it's kind of a strut tower. So I don't want to mess around with that and not do it right. So I think that probably going to pay somebody to do that. Thankfully, we have a friend in Autobody out here who's already said that he'll be willing to come over and take a look at it and probably do the job for us. So that's good. And we gave said friend a bunch of Volkswagen parts we had lying around. So he already has mentioned that he's in our favor. So that'll probably help the price. Not that I think the Volkswagen parts are worth what the rust repair job would be, but just one of those friend helping friend deal, right? So that's the Mustang news. There's not a bunch of progress, but there is now solid progress on the way. Also, I moved every car in my possession. Let me rephrase. Naomi and I moved every car in my possession here in Arizona on Monday night. How long, Andrew, do you think this task took, considering that 4 of them, because of your Volvo, don't run?
2 hours.
2.5 hours. To be fair,
right.
That did include going out and buying a new battery for the 944. So there was a little extra time from that. So it probably would have been closer to 2 hours. Also, shout out to that battery. It has like a 2017 date code on it. And when I first got the car from Bradley, he said the battery doesn't hold a charge. It's probably going to be replaced. And that was almost 3 years ago. Right? 2 years ago? 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Must have been 3 years by now. What year is this? 24? I don't know. It was either 2 or 3 years ago. And the battery lasted up until this week, and it wouldn't hold the charge at all. So I had to buy a new battery for the 944. So I got a new battery for the 944 in that process. Finished the whole job, and I was like, man, that wasn't that bad. That was only 2.5 hours. And then I hit myself over the head and reminded myself that, yeah, it was only 2.5 hours to literally just move the cars in my yard. And that was frustrating.
Yeah.
So, anyway, every car got moved with the sole purpose of putting the Mustang in the back right spot, because the back right spot is in front of our shed and it is a wider area of concrete in the backyard. So the way my yard is set up, I have like an RV gate that goes into the backyard. You know this, but I'm just explaining it to the listeners. There's an RV gate that goes into the backyard that's a little more than a car width wide. It's not a super wide, path to go down, but any normal car will.
It's just wide enough for an RV. It's just
wide enough for an RV. Yeah, any normal car will go down there. I've had a Silverado in the side yard, so anything Silverado size or smaller is fine. But then when it gets to the last, I'd say, car and a half length, it widens out to 2 cars wide of pavement, maybe a car and a half wide of paver. And I wanted to put the Mustang back there so that we could slide it over a little bit and have room to walk around it while we're doing suspension, bodywork, and engine install. So all of that was the main reason for moving all the cars around. So the Mustang is now staged up at an angle in the back of the yard where it'll get put on 4 jack stands and not come down until there's an engine in it. So that's exciting. The other reason for moving all the cars around was to unbury the Starion. I talked about the Starion water pump a few weeks ago, I think. But ever since that week, I haven't been able to drive the car because it's been buried in the backyard. So I moved that to the front of the yard and pulled that car out so that I could drive that car again. My thought process was, and this is Mr. Me being ambitious about everything all the time, that this weekend is one of those South Mountain, Arizona Classic Japanese Car Club meetups. And I was like, oh, I'm going to show up out of nowhere in an old Starion that I haven't driven since I've lived here. That's not going to happen for a couple of reasons. One, the tires that I put on it when I lived in Massachusetts, and the car was still being driven in the wintertime, and they're winter tires. And they're from 2009. So they've been sitting for a long time, and they've been sitting now for at least 3 years out here in Phoenix in the sun, and they are all dry rotted and cracked and don't hold air very well. So that's not going to work. The second reason is all of that coolant that I put in it after I fixed the water pump left the chat. And I was like, I wonder where all that
Wasn't the radiator
coolant went.
leaking?
Apparently, you remember the radiator leaking, Andrew, but I do not.
Yes, that's why I was wondering when you had it running. I was like, when you're posting on the Discord, should come hang on the Discord. I was like, I think the radiator was leaking in there, but I can't remember if it was that car or some other Colt.
Well, Andrew, I have zero recollection of the radiator leaking. Turns out the radiator is leaking because I filled it back up again just now, today, and it started pouring all over the ground. So it seems like the leak is somewhere near the top, so it'll run long enough in the yard to move it around and whatever and whatnot. So there's that. Let me reverse back to that in a second. The other issue I had is one of the last times I did drive the car, when I opened the hood cable snapped. So I haven't been closing the hood. I had a 2x4 on top of the valve cover, so the hood would only go down so far. And it wouldn't get stuck closed. I can get up inside there and open it, but I just don't want to. So one thing I did today was I pulled the latch plate off. So the hood latch is mounted inside a metal plate that bridges from like the bumper support to the radiator support. And I pulled that off. And the hole where the cable goes, I just put in a piece of plastic coated wire and tied it to a knot and put it in there so I can just have a temporary hood pull so I can close the hood so that I can theoretically trip the car around the block and see what happens. So after I fixed that, about 6:40 here now, about 2 hours ago, I finished that. And that's why I was a little late doing podcast tonight. And I told you I had, for content purposes, needed like 15 more minutes. It's because I actually drove the Starion tonight. Starion hasn't driven more than in my yard since the car got here. The last time the car drove, it went 1 mile down the street in Salem to the gas station, where I filled it up with fuel, and the fuel spilled all over the floor. So that's the last time the car ever drove. So I drove the car around the block, so down my street, around the actual physical block, and then went a little extra on the main road here. The not main road, but like the wider north-south road. And the car pulled all the way to where it should pull. Turbo spooled up nice. Brakes worked wonderful. Everything worked. So super exciting. All it needs now is a radiator, apparently, which apparently you know all about, and I'm just a dummy, didn't remember. So I'm going to put a radiator in it, and I'm going to enjoy it for a little while until it does go away or doesn't go away. I don't know. But put a radiator in it, some tires on it, and enjoy it. So it'll be kind of neat to drive it.
There you go.
It's ugly. It's always been ugly. It's rusty. That hasn't changed. Fenders don't match. One door doesn't match. There's no back bumper on it right now, but it runs. So, and it runs well enough that like it literally drove correctly. Like it ran. I didn't run all the way to Redline, but I ran to like 4,500. It boosted the way it's supposed to. It pulled the way it's supposed to. It drove like I remember it. So I was quite happy with that. Oh, and I finally put the window up. It's been down forever because the switch is broken. So big shout out to your dad for gifting me Power Pro for my birthday a few years ago because I was able to just jump the connector and put the window up. So yeah, that's the big progress. What do you want to talk about next, Andrew? Your car or my sad news?
What's your sad
you
news?
know all about it already. So we had our first oil change in our Maverick about a month ago. And the dealership we went to said they couldn't do the recall. They needed it for 72 hours. And at the time, we were like, well, we can't leave the car for 72 hours. And they said they couldn't give us a loaner. And we're like, that doesn't sound right. On top of that, the dealership was a bunch of jerks. And I'll say exactly what dealership it was. It was Peoria Ford, and they were terrible. They treated Naomi like she was dirt, basically. Also tried to sell us services on a 6-month-old car. And then said that it was because Ford doesn't produce the cars for the heat in Phoenix. So we needed these services to prep the car to live here in Phoenix.
Right. Sure.
A likely story. I'm sure they sell them to plenty of people, but some of those people aren't us. So they would try to charge her $50 to put a battery pad under the terminal. Like, if it needed it, Ford would have put it there, number one. And number two, if I wanted to put it there, they're $1 at the parts store at the counter. Like, I'm not going to you're not getting $50 for a green battery pad. Stop. Anyway, all of that plus the way they talked to her was just not good. And she asked them not to wash the car because of the ceramic coating. She doesn't want to run it through a car wash. And then he grilled her about the ceramic coating and then asked her like what it was. And when she told him eventually, he was like, oh, so it's like a real ceramic coating. And she was like, yeah, what do you think I meant in the first place? Like, so anyway, on the recommendation of a friend of mine, Michael, that runs Italian Design and Racing out here, he has a friend that is a service writer at a different Ford dealer down actually conveniently near where Naomi works. So we're like, all right, we'll bring it there for the recall. We called his friend Tim, and he said, absolutely, we can get it in and get it out same day. And we're like, oh, sweet. So it doesn't take 72 hours? And he goes, no, absolutely not. He goes, the only thing is there's one recall in the car that Ford put 2 different parts in, and we won't know which one it needs until we get it apart, and we have to order the parts. You'll have to come back a second time to get the part in. And I was like, all right. And Naomi was like, all right, that's fine. That makes sense. You don't have to hold it for 72 days, though. He's like, no. And if we did, you'd have a loaner car. So even better already. And the guy, even before we told him that we were referred to him by somebody else, Naomi said that he was much more professional. So drops the car off with him. She Ubers back to her office, expecting to Uber back there at the end of the day to pick her car up. And she got back to her office, and within an hour of getting back to the office, she got a phone call from the dealership. She was like, oh, that was fast. She picked the phone up, and the guy at the dealership was like, so, we crashed your car.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. That was Thursday of last week. It's now, Wednesday? It's been almost a week. I'm still not, over it yet, and she certainly isn't either, because this car's 6 months old. We're trying everything to keep it as perfect as possible, and we left it in the care of the dealership, and there you go. So I do want to say that being in the industry, and you're from the automotive industry as well, Andrew, you know this happens. It's not... I don't want to say it's common, but it's also not uncommon, right? Like, I will admit to have bumping two cars together at one point in my car dealership / body shop life. When you're moving, probably in the count of thousands of cars over the course of your year working there, the chances are pretty good, right? And it happens. The problem is, Andrew, is that when it happens, it doesn't usually happen to my car. And being on this other side of it, it sucks, especially because it's a brand new car. So I will say,
Yeah, I know. The Volkswagen dealer
you had it too.
scratched my car twice.
Yeah, I was talking about that the other day.
One of the first times it was there, they opened the door into the lift. There's two big scratches on the door. And then when they were doing the stupid carbon blast, they dragged the cart across the front of it.
That's right, too. So, yeah. I don't want to compare stories here, but hey, let's compare stories. So anyway, what I will say is that the dealership did so far everything correctly. They didn't try to pass it off like they didn't know anything about it. They called immediately. They told us it happened. It's not the biggest damage. It's literally a small 7 or 8 inch long crease in the quarter panel above the wheel. So it's not something that can be buffed out. It required paint, unfortunately. But they called right away. They told us what happened. They immediately sent us pictures. Before they even called us, they called a body shop that they use, and they don't actually use a normal body shop. They use an actual restoration center. It's called Desert Vintage Restorations, that does nothing but high-end, like full-on muscle car, sports car restorations. But they also do this particular dealership's only their like damage they inflicted on new cars, because they don't want the cars. 2 reasons: they don't want the car to have a bad Carfax, which neither do we. And they want it done by somebody who takes the care to do it properly, not by a production body shop that wants it in, wants it out, wants it gone. So, because I am who I am, and because Naomi is so particular about this car, even with that information, I still called this shop to talk to them. Turns out the guy's from New York, so he's East Coaster. We had a long conversation. I mean, I talked to this guy now twice for like 20 minutes each time, so that's good, about what he's doing to the car, how he's doing it. And it seems like it's going to be done properly. Like, they didn't tape anything. They took everything apart, doing it the right way. And we should hopefully get the car back Friday or Monday. So, fingers.
There goes that ceramic coating.
That's the other thing. They're going to fix the ceramic coating, but they can't do it for 30 days. And we told them that we want to make sure that the shop that we paid a lot of money to do it is the shop that fixes it, because we don't want to have their warranty have any issues as far as like, the ceramic coating didn't hold up on this one panel, but hey, we didn't do it. So they're going to honor that as well. It's going to go back to that Bob Moses ceramic coating guy. And they're going to redo that quarter panel, and they're going to bill it directly to the dealership. So, which the dealership's okay with. So, like I said, it sucks a lot, but I can't complain about how it's been handled since it happened. So that's kind of where we're at. So I'm going to refrain from giving out that dealership name until I see exactly how it's handled all the way in the end. Because I don't want to badmouth them or give them praise until it's over. But so far, so good. And if they handle this properly, like, yeah, this sucks, but it's not going to stop us from going back there. So
I got a good one. I was, this is probably 20 years ago now. I was like the lot kid at the Infiniti dealer. So it's like probably 5 in the afternoon, pulling up a customer's car. It was an i30. So like probably a 2002, 2003 i30. They're all but disappeared now. Those
I don't
all
even see
rotted
them
away.
here.
Nope. So I'm pulling it up. The lot is like a parking lot. I'm coming up the corner at kind of a normal speed in a parking lot. The salesman who was just leaving was whipping out of the parking lot in his Jeep and just smashed the nose of the I-30. Of course, it's a Jeep. It's up high. It just hit like high on the fender and like right at the top of the strut.
Oof.
I mean, he hit it pretty hard, like 30.
Oof.
And the lady is 50 yards away waiting up front for her car. Watched the entire
that's
thing.
amazing.
It was, yeah.
Sounds like that wasn't your fault, though.
No.
Nice.
Yeah. Nobody really liked it. Like, I kind of saw him coming, and I probably should have stopped. But also, he shouldn't have been moving like that.
Sure,
in the
you taught
parking
him a
lot.
lesson with you taught him a lesson with some poor lady's car.
Yeah. So what? I don't know. It ended up other people saw it happen, and they were like, "It's not Andrew's fault." I was like,
Yeah, 100%.
because that was awkward.
Yeah,
like that was like an office like moment,
for
right?
sure.
Where you could see like the camera is up near the
Yeah.
lady, and her car just
And you
gets
just turn
smashed
and look at her,
as she's
and you do the
watching.
gym face. I don't know. Sweet. Yeah. So if we're telling stories, I'll tell my favorite one too, real fast. So I worked at a body shop in Salem, and it was the end of a day on a Friday, and everybody took off at like 4:30, and I was pissed because I went out back to like start cleaning up, and everybody was gone. You know, I was the front store manager. And we had maybe 5 cars parked out front still that all had to come out back for the weekend. And 3 of them were finished cars and 2 of them were waiting to be detailed. So I moved the 2 cars that were waiting to be detailed into the detail bay, which is in the front of the store. So that was easy. And then I got to the 3rd car, which I'll never forget them, obviously. One was a Mazda 3, and the other car was an Impala, like a 2006-5 Impala, that kind of blobby nothing car Impala. They're both black. So I got in this Mazda 3, and I put it in reverse, and I backed it up, and I saw the Impala, and I stopped behind the Impala, and I was like, hey, I know the customer with the Impala is going to be here first thing Monday morning. Sorry, I know the customer with the Mazda is going to be here first thing Monday morning. The guy with the Impala, I don't know when is coming in. So I should probably put the Impala away first. So bear in mind now, I had just moved this Mazda. I got out of the Mazda, walked to the Impala, got into the Impala, immediately put it in reverse, and backed it right into the Mazda that I had parked right behind the Impala. Not 3 seconds prior. My entire intention of getting out of the Mazda was to move the Impala, and I left it right behind it, got in the Impala, backed up right into the door of this Mazda that was going to be picked up Monday morning first thing. So, like I said,
Nice.
I know it happens. I've personally done it. I think that's the only one I've done, but in all my years in the industry, I've driven a lot of cars, moved a lot of cars, and yeah, I bumped 2 of them together. That guy did not pick up his Mazda Monday morning. I did what this dealership did, and I called them immediately, and I said, hey, there was an incident. Now, I may or may not have said that I personally did it, but I did tell them there was an incident, and that the car got bumped into, and we're going to take care of it, and took pictures and showed them afterwards. So it does happen, and like I said, and that might be why I have more sympathy than somebody else might have had with the situation, but it still sucks. And it's still like, I don't know, you're trying to do the right thing by keeping up with services and keeping up with the recalls and making sure things get done right. And if we dropped it off an hour earlier, an hour later, it wouldn't have happened, right? Just that perfect storm of timing. So anyway, reports updated next week when the car gets back, but it seems like it's all going to be done properly and correctly, and I just won't know until I see the car. But it just sucks. It's out of your control and you can't do anything about it. So
Yeah.
anyway, moving on. We do have one more really big project car to talk about. Your
All right.
Volvo.
Yeah, I like this project car. I never have to touch it.
I hate this project car. I had to touch it.
So
It's
far.
not even mine. Actually, honestly, and we were talking about this in the Discord, that I had a really good time working on this car. I think it was a Saturday or Sunday. I think it was Sunday. Regardless, whatever day it was. I had a really good time working on the car and learning a whole new car until I didn't. The first few hours, the first few times I had done this, I was super into it, super like excited to try the next thing and see if the next thing worked. I don't think we've talked about it at all that the car has no compression.
Yeah, I think we
Did
talked
we?
last week. It's got no compression.
So the car has no compression, but it doesn't make much sense. So I pulled the valve cover off, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? First, I'm going to check the valve clearance and see if the car was even set up properly. Because it doesn't make any sense for all 4 pistons to have no compression. The frustration comes when I start looking up the process for checking the valves. I found no less than 4 different ways on the internet of how to do this. And maybe it all works out the same in the end, but I don't see how. The Volvo book that the car came with said to put cylinder 1 at top dead center on the compression stroke, which I did. And then when it's at top dead center on the compression stroke, you can check valves 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, or something like that. And then once you've done those, you rotate the engine until cylinder number 4 is at top dead center on its compression stroke, and you can do the remaining valves. So 4, 7, 8, 6, 7, whatever numbers they are. I don't remember off the top of my head right now. So that's one method. Another method I saw was literally the opposite. It said when cylinder 1 is at top dead center on the compression stroke, you check valves number 3, 5, 7, 8, as opposed to 1, 2, 4, 6. And I was like, oh, that's the exact opposite. That doesn't make me comfortable. So the third method I saw was turn the engine until cylinder 1 reaches its tumbling point. Now, what called the tumbling point is the point in which the intake valve and exhaust valve are just start moving in opposite directions. So when you get to that point and you rock the crank back and forth, you'll see the valves move up and down to get like independently, one up, one down, one up, one down, vice versa. That's the tumbling point. When you're at the tumbling point, you take whatever cylinder that is, plus whatever number it takes to get to 5. So it's the rule of 5. I also heard of the rule of 9. So the rule of 5 was if 1 plus 4 equals 5, then when number 1 is at its tumbling point, you adjust cylinder number 4. When cylinder number 2 is at its tumbling point, you adjust number 3 because number 3 is 2 plus 3 is 5. And so on and so forth. So I was like, all right, well, that seems, I guess, logical. So I tried it that way first. And it didn't work. It still had no compression, but the compression numbers were better. It went from like almost 0 to like 25 pounds. So I was like, that's weird. Timing of something is off. This doesn't seem right. So then I went to the original method of the put cylinder number 1 at top dead center on compression stroke. and check for the 1, 2, 4, or sorry, 1, 3, 5, 7, we'll say. So I'm doing that, and when I get to number 3, I cannot adjust it enough. I have it backed out fully, and the valve, the rocker, is still depressing the spring down with no more room for adjustment. So I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense at all, because this is 100% the way it's supposed to be. So at that point, I just stopped. And I started getting annoyed. And I was like, well, the other one that I was reading said to do when cylinder number 1 gets to TDC, compression stroke, check the other 4 valves. So I did that, and I was able to adjust all the valves properly with cylinder number 1 at TDC, and with cylinder number 4 at TDC, everything adjusted fine. So I was like, maybe that's the right way. So then I went to check the compression again, and still nothing. It's back down to like 0. That's weird.
Weird.
So I put it all back together. And just for laughs, I tried to start it. Just put just a tiny little bit of ether in it, just to see if it would tumble over. Maybe just do a little spark. And it would not. Then I started thinking about the distributor. And I'm like, well, maybe the distributor is 180 degrees out. And I'm setting the timing for this thing for TDC at compression, but it's actually TDC at the 180 degrees rotated. So I flipped the wires in the distributor. I moved everything over the firing order over to where it would be 180 degrees out. And I went to start it, and it did backfire, which is what would normally happen if you're 180 out, right? It would backfire to the carb. So I'm assuming that it's correct. So I kind of put it away at that point because I'm not sure what is going on. So I plan on digging into it again, maybe on Saturday or Sunday this weekend. Just because it's like a confusing mystery now. And it still doesn't make any sense for there to be no compression. So I am going to work on it a little more. The good news is that it's getting fuel. The carbs are working. I cleaned up the linkage, so they all move smoothly now. Everything's working in conjunction with the engine. It's making spark. It's delivering fuel. It's just not making compression for some reason. So, couple of thoughts, and I think you probably agree with this. It sounds like somebody took this car apart to do maintenance on it, and then when they put it back together, it didn't work. Now, what was the maintenance? Was it a head gasket? Were they doing something cool like putting a cam in? Did they put the cam in and clock it wrong? I just don't know. So, short of trying to find the old owner and asking what happened, I just don't know. I'm probably not going to dig into it to the point of pulling the head off, although it does look like a very simple project. Somebody in the Discord did suggest that not being able to adjust the rocker far enough means that it probably has a bent valve, or a bent push rod, I should say. So that the push rod is bent, meaning it's down further than it should be, so you can't adjust it far enough. But I don't know.
I don't know why you would have no compression in all cylinders, not just one. That's
the whole sticking point. If it was down on compression in one cylinder, I'd be like, yeah, bent push rod, that makes sense.
Drop the valve, whatever.
That makes sense. But it's all 4 are just 0. So why? So, like I said, I'm probably going to dig into it again this weekend. Not to the detriment of my own projects, but I want to figure it out. So,
did you use your borescope?
I have not put the borescope inside of it yet. No. No.
I would go down your spark plug hole.
I ran out of patience by that point and just stopped.
I would do that first next time before messing with anything else. Just look in there.
I mean,
like
there's an engine in there.
Maybe every valve is broken. I don't know.
I doubt it. I mean,
I doubt it
what
too,
am I
but
looking
I
for
don't
with
know.
the borescope? Just pieces of valve on the cylinders?
If it can look up at the valves.
Yeah, it's hard to manipulate that thing in like that. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, can you go down the intake manifold?
Maybe.
At least the intake side.
Well, it's not a crossflow head. Intake and exhaust are on the same side.
No. Yeah, but you can't get to the exhaust fan manifolds in the way.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
You can just pop the carbs off and it's a straight shot. You can
It kind of is. It's a twin carb setup. So they're on a V, but I could probably get in there. So
yeah,
I could probably try that. I didn't think about that too much, but again, I was frustrated by the end that it was getting dark, and I just wanted to have time to clean up all the tools before it got fully dark. So
yeah, I don't know. Other than that,
I really want to rip this thing down the street. That's like my ultimate goal. It's like just rip this thing around the corner.
I don't know how to get it on a truck to get it here.
It's very easy to get on a truck. You just do you not know how to do it? I'll walk you through it.
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to Google it and it was not giving me a good.
It's very simple. You just go on UShip and you put in a quote. You say they ask you all the questions. It's what kind of car is it? Does it run? Where is it coming from? Where is it going to? And that's it. And if they ask if they can bring an 18-wheeler down my street, they can, because I've had 3 cars delivered via 18-wheeler onto this street. And my neighbor just the other day had a car picked up and taken out of his house on an 18-wheeler on our street. So plenty of room.
Yeah.
So one guy said he wouldn't come down my street. I don't know why. The guy brought the grass out of here. So I had to go. Yeah. But literally I went to the cross street. Like it wasn't. He wouldn't come down the small street for some reason, even though a small street in Phoenix is still 35 feet wide. So whatever. Anyway, yeah, it's very simple. The only caveat is it might cost a little more if it doesn't run, and I'd like to make it run first. I shipped the yellow Colt non-running from Missouri to Georgetown, door to door. And that was many, many years ago, and it was like $700. But car shipping right now is not terribly expensive. Sub 15 or so, I guess. So maybe a little more not running, but still not worried about it. It's easy enough to make happen. I've done it a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's project car update stuff, Andrew. I haven't done anything else. That's a pretty busy week, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Stuff. And on top of that, I went to like car events last weekend, and I think I talked real quickly there about the Bring a Trailer alumni gathering.
Yeah, it was Bring a Trailer. What else?
I went to the Saturday night event down the street from my house, the Mexican restaurant. Went down there with Naomi and met up with Greg, who you know from Nico Club.
Wait, which? Not at Valley Luna, right?
No, a little further down.
Not that Mexican restaurant.
I don't know if I went there with you at 67th and Bell at Mixteca.
No. There's
an every Saturday night show. It's a very traditional show. It's much more like the Wednesday night show in Danvers. It's a lot of older crowd, a lot of muscle cars, a lot of 57 Chevys and 32 Fords, a lot of Volkswagens. But there's a small contingent of us import guys. But Naomi and I had dinner down there at the Mexican restaurant with Greg and his wife Becky as well. So that was a good night. I feel like there was another car event I went to, but now it's escaping me. So maybe I didn't. Anyway, this weekend in Phoenix, if you're in the Phoenix area, there is Saturday is 4 till 4 Shakedown Day. So that's vintage JDM and Euro cars. Then on Sunday, you have a choice of what you want to do. And I'm trying to figure out how to get to both, but it's going to be tough. So from 8 to 11, FCP Euro is having their first West Coast event. They opened a distribution center here in the valley. It's actually in Mesa, Arizona. They're doing a like Cars and Coffee style. I think they call them Sunday somethings. They call them. They just had one in New England that I saw our friend Jordan and our friend Andy were at.
They do them at Lime Rock. They do
Sundays in the park. Is what they call it.
it.
Yeah, they call it something else. Sunday something here.
Yeah.
Sunday gatherings or something they call it here. This is their first one this weekend. So that's happening in the morning from 8 to 11. And then from 10 to 1 at South Mountain, at the South Mountain Educational Center, the big parking lot there, is the Arizona Classic JDM Club, quote unquote. JDM Roundup, they call it, at the South Mountain. So those both are on Sunday this weekend. And then obviously the typical Saturday shows at nighttime. But it's going to be a busy car weekend to try to do all that, plus work on stuff. So if I have to choose one or the other, I'm unfortunately not going to go to the FCP event because it is an hour away. And I know that all of my friends are going to go to the Japanese car event because that's our wheelhouse more so than the Euro stuff. If I had the 944 out and running, it runs, but it would need to be cleaned up because it's been sitting for a while. Or had your Volvo running and driving, maybe I'd go to the FCP show, but I don't. So I'll stick probably with if I only go to one, it'll be the JDM show. So both good times. And then looking forward to the following weekend is one of my favorite events of the year, the Front Row Moto Show, which is the custom motorcycle show that I usually post pictures from each year. So that's the following Saturday. So good stuff coming up here. Real excited. Other events this weekend, I want to wish good luck to our friend Alex, who's debuting his rally car in the Olympus Rally up in Washington. There should be actually 2 rear-wheel drive Dodge Colts competing in this event. So good luck to both those guys, but especially Alex because he's good friends with us and he's also a Discord member. Good luck to him. I know he took off on the road today and he should be up there probably Thursday evening at some point and getting ready to run his car. So good luck to him. Anything else, Andrew?
No, I don't know any car events that are going on here yet. Keep my eyes out, but for some reason they just always escape me sometimes. I don't know. The algorithm does not giveth to me for car events. Or they're not close.
Yeah, I can't help you. I have not been looking into what's happening on the East Coast.
Because an hour or like a 2-hour drive here is like pretty far. You're in like another state.
Of course. Yeah.
So,
well, you could probably go to I think the Wednesday night shows have started. If you wanted to take Marco to one of those to have him walk around and see some cool cars, it'd be kind of neat. Yeah,
maybe
that's
see.
an easy enough one.
Problem is, by the time I get home, the show is over. So
yeah, you just gotta kind of like stop by on the way home and see if anything's still going on, and then go home after. So, anyway, all right,
cool. You can follow the podcast, Auto Off Topic Podcast, on Facebook if you're still on there. Auto Off Topic on Instagram. We've been posting pictures on there, especially you, Brad. I am a race sending on Instagram, and all those are the same on Threads as well. I've been on there for a bit, so.
They can find me, as always, on Instagram at TSISS350. They can find more Instagram content at Scale Autocast. Obviously, on our podcast page, I post there as well. I post on Threads less than you, but I am there. And the newest, latest, greatest thing I'm involved in, which seems to be something new all the time, I think I've mentioned it briefly before, is the Arizona Rising Sun Rally. It's a driving tour style, non-competitive rally happening October 26th. We do have a Instagram page, AZ Rising Sun Rally with an E, or a website, azrisingsunrally.com. You can look for more information there. It looks like we're planning some routes. It'll be a scenic drive up around through kind of the maybe Jerome area, maybe not, some of the mountainous drives. It's going to start in North Phoenix and end at a restaurant in Fountain Hills with a whole after party with food being provided as part of your entry fee. So that should be a pretty fun event with many more details coming on that. So it's for vintage Japanese cars, 2005 and older. So looking for up through like early Evos and S2000s and as old as you're willing to drive a couple 100 miles in an old Japanese car. So I personally plan on doing it in something old and carbureted. I know one of the other organizers is doing it in a 76 Celica liftback, and the third organizer is doing it in a FD RX-7. So we have a pretty wide gamut of cars already, just the three of us. So yeah, look out for details. If you're interested in participating, drop us a line. The page should be live. Well, the page is live, but the page with the application info should be live shortly. We're just cleaning up a couple of quick things. We're trying to keep it small the first year, probably somewhere between 20 and 30 cars, including us, just to kind of keep numbers manageable and kind of maybe build interest into something a little bit bigger than what it is, and maybe eventually do 2 or 3 day events. This is going to be a 1-day event. So yeah, look at all those places for that info. AZ Rising Sun Rally, and rally is spelled with an E. So, because we're fancy. But yeah, that's where they can find me, Andrew.
So it's only Japanese cars?
I don't want to get into a huge conversation about it right now, but at this moment in time, it is just for Japanese cars, yes. Yeah.
All right.
I lost the battle, let's put it that way. I wanted it to be open to all import vehicles. But there's 3 of us running it, and
they have a lot of their own rallies.
That's the same thought process that the other organizers had. And I said, sure. What about people who don't fit into those rallies? Like, I don't know, Andrew in a Volvo 142, because there's no Volvo 142 rallies.
I could do like vintage car rally.
You could
there's ones
absolutely. You could do some that are open to that kind of thing, but I just
DWA Breakfast Club.
Anyways, those are not near here, and this was something that's near here, and there isn't anything near here.
I'm also not near there.
I'm just using your car for an example, but there is nothing near here that is open to cars like that. That's not prohibitively expensive and exclusive. That one of the huge things with this event is we're trying to keep it budget enthusiast friendly, like a true middle class experience, not one of these thousands of dollars events. Like, we want this thing to be like $80 including t-shirt and dinner. Like, it's not going to be a lot of money. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So don't hold me to that price. That's our target goal. So we're working to keep it in that range. And then if it goes to
trying to plan a.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead. We're trying to plan a forenoon cup for May 4th. We'll
Excellent.
Try, but come join the Discord and you'll learn more about that.
I think we'll post that on the Instagram as well, usually. So that's true. Super secret.
You got to be in the Discord.
Well, unfortunately, that model does not work here because the Discord audience of Arizona participants is a lot lower than the East Coast Discord contingent. So,
hey, our Discord's free. I know we keep mentioning it, but it is free. I'm not charging. We don't charge anyone for this stuff. This content is free. Can you believe it? The quality of this content is free.
You almost believe it, Andrew. If you keep saying it, you almost believe it. But no Patreon. Just come join the damn Discord and talk cars. We had a new member join up yesterday, and he's fitting right in already. So,
sure is. All right, keep your cars analog and aim the roses.